Hello, hello. Um, Sorry I've been away for a little while. Like a lot of other people, I've been under the weather. It started like probably Christmas Eve, and yes, I was out partying, but where I live in Texas, it's 80 degrees one day. The next day, it's 50 degrees. The next day, it's 75 degrees. Then the next day, it's 45 degrees, and then you're back to 80. And this is all in December. So the first day of winter, it barely begins. I believe it's the 21st of December. But also now, so did the rollout of conveniently this new bird flu. But I don't know if people remember. Well, man, I'm actually spanked off of YouTube with my other channels and a lot of my other pages because of the stuff I talk about. The only place I'm actually allowed to freely talk about these things is Rumble and X as of right now. So I can't really go too deep into what I want to say, but I can drop hints. And hopefully I'm not flagged for any medical misinformation. I don't give medical advice. Even though me and Bill Gates went to the same medical school, we both graduated the same class. We had the same exact GPA. So just keep that in mind. We have me and him and I share the same credentials. But he can talk about stuff that I can't. In person, I can talk about whatever the hell I want. But on the internet, on where I'm, if you're depending on where you're watching me, I can't talk about what I want to talk about here. But if you do follow this page, the Safe and Effective Podcast, then you know what I'm talking about. You know what safe and effective means. They beat it into your heads for years. And then one day, it just went away. But in its place came devastation. And now that we have a new president elect that should be coming into office in less than a month, it's like they have this planned to just basically disrupt the country so that none of his amazing agenda can be pushed through. People like myself will be holding events in person for the next 4 years to make sure that we're able to explain to you the manipulation that the media is having on you to, tarnish the name of the president and his efforts, to make you want to turn against the country. Remember, the goal is to put you where you were back during George Floyd. They want you to hate who you are, to not be proud of where you were born. Think about it. I was just, part-time. I live in Colombia. Every house, there's a Colombian flag out front. When you walk down the streets, there are people wear clothing with their own flag on there by choice. When you see someone wearing an American flag in the United States, for one thing, those numbers are dwindling because certain people made it uncool to be patriotic. we want to bring back patriotism. We want you to be happy about who you are, but we want you to understand that there are forces out there who wish to destroy us and everything we're about. For one thing, we're one of the only independent countries on earth where you can go, start a business, work, build yourself up, and you're not being taxed 80 and 90% like you will in these socialist communist countries. Once upon a time, I thought Europe was no better than the United States. I thought every country on earth was free and was capitalist and everyone had freedom of speech and I was dead fucking wrong. But the problem was I had spent so much time in the United States since I was a kid that I forgot what reality is. And in reality, in the real world, you can't do what you do here. You don't have the freedoms. The stuff that we're watching happen in the United States that we can speak out against, in other countries, they have no choice but to watch it happen and shut the hell up. There are those who have tried to speak out, peacefully protest against certain things. They're all in prison now in the UK, in Australia, in Ireland, and Scotland. One thing about the countries I'm going to name, they're all English-speaking Western countries. So out of this whole Western sphere, the United States is an island because we still have a constitution. which protects us and shields us from things like being prosecuted for having a difference of opinion. Even though we can be censored on social media, we can't be arrested for our thoughts yet. But because we have our Second Amendment, it's going to be really, really hard to do that. They know it. So the best they can do is hopefully to censor us online, but they can't censor us in person. So some of the things that is going to make it very hard for the incoming Trump administration is going to be this right here. That's right here.
It's likely going to be the head of Health and Human Services, Peter Hotez, who is one of the sexiest men in America, according to the left. When you compare it, good news for me. Maybe I'm saying, no, this guy's like, listen, I mean, he did not want to debate Bobby or Kennedy. We ended up raising $3.5 million for him to agree to go on Joe Rogan's podcast with Bobby, and he says no, he didn't want to do it. He says it's not healthy for America for us to do it because we have nothing to debate. We were right. Here's Peter Hotez, aka Nostradamus, making a prediction. Go ahead, Rob.
Here's the reason why we need to care about this stuff, Nicole, is that we have some big picture stuff coming down the pike starting on January 21st. Mr. Bloomberg.
Okay, now this video he made is from over a month ago. So this is a man in December. When someone in his position is using language, now he is a joke. He is a clown. He's a puppet that works for the World Economic Forum. He pushes the World Health Organization propaganda. I'm not going to go into specifics because there is a word that we shall not say. However, this guy right here, look at what he's doing. He's going to give us something very telling. He's going to give us a timetable.
Mentioned H5N1 that I'm really worried about. It's all over wild birds on the western part of the United States and going up in the north. It's getting into the poultry. We're seeing sporadic human cases, no human-to-human transmission yet, but that could happen. It's in the
pretty convenient. They're doing 2-for-1s at Popeyes with their chicken sandwiches. Just a shameless plug.
Cattle, it's in the milk, and that's just the beginning. We have another major coronavirus likely brewing in Asia. We've had SARS in 2002, SARS-2, COVID-19 in 2019, and we know these viruses are jumping from bats to people thousands of times.
We know that they are jumping from bats to humans, he said bats to birds. Who's we? How the fuck do we know this? I don't know this. I've never been out having lunch with a bird and the bird's like, excuse me, I'm going to the bathroom. Turns a corner right when a bat's walking out. Boom, they bump into each other, start coughing and snotting all over each other. I've never seen it happen. So I don't know if this is even true at all. What we have to do is take some wild-eyed, wired-haired pork chop. I mean, I don't know if you guys saw this guy on the Joe Rogan, an obvious clown, but he's a useful idiot. He'll say anything for money. He's been in the shadow with Fauci and these other grifters. I guess he was the backup guy in case somebody would have laid down the hammer to the Fauci, if you know what I mean. If he would have got a little bit of that Americana justice that we like to serve sometimes to terrorists. If he would have got that same treatment, Hotez would have been their guy. And matter of fact, since Fauci, it might have looked like a success, probably in the bigger scheme of things, they see Fauci as a failure, and he might be the runner-up. But look at what he does. He makes a very critical mistake.
But there's still more. We know that we have a big problem with mosquito-transmitted viruses all along the Gulf Coast, where I am here in Texas, and we're expecting dengue and possibly Zika virus coming back, or a Puche virus, maybe even yellow fever. And there's more. Then we have all this sharp rise in vaccine preventable diseases.
Here, you can pause it by now, by the way, can you play the clip I just sent you, Rob? This is the one when he was on Rogan, okay? And Rogan
what he was saying, and we'll go to that clip later on, is he's saying that under President Trump, there will be a new, starting on, he literally said, there's going to be a huge rollout of everything that he's naming, all these different diseases or whatever. They're all magically going to start on January 21st, 2025. The man literally gives, matter of fact, let me find that a part of this clip. The man literally gives a date. So that's why Patrick Bet-David called him Nostradamus. How the hell do you have an exact date for when something is going to start? I asked the same question back when Fauci said in 2017 that there would be another surprise pandemic under Trump. Now Hotez is saying there's going to be another surprise that magically starts on the 21st of January. How is it a surprise? It's only a surprise if the person either doesn't know, and the only person who would know is the person who's throwing the surprise. Do you not think we know that you know that we know? Like we know that, no, we don't know that bats and birds or this, but we do know that literally you are putting this together, but you're not even the person in charge or nothing. He's a low-level guy. You know, he sits in a room, yada, yada, and he just repeats what he's told, but this is coming up. So, and apparently this is going to be a full media blitz. You think the whole Jay-Z propaganda and the R. Kelly and the Diddy, you think you were bombarded with Diddy nonsense nonstop for months? Imagine what it's going to look like starting January 21st, 2025. That's the reason why any of us in the the independent journalist space, we're just going to increase production. We're just going to, personally, I'm doing a studio situation where I'm going to just try to do as close to 24 hours a day as possible, where we can just read the headlines and just decipher them for you. We'll break them down together. Because from what I can tell, the fear is in the unknown. I remember March of 2020. The reason I had no fear is because I wasn't in the unknown. There are men who came before me who know more than me, who I trust and I respect, like Alex Jones, for example. Alex Jones in the year 2007, 2008, I remember when I first found out who he was. And he introduced the world. Well, he introduced the United States for the most part to people in my age bracket. He introduced us to a man named David Icke. March 17th, 2020, David Icke had a huge interview on London Real. David Icke broke down everything that was going on. You know what 2020 was. This is like in the first days. He explained everything, what was happening, why it was happening, and what was going to happen in the future and what was to come. He was absolutely right about everything. Because I knew what was happening, what was going on, the fear was gone. The fear is in the unknown. As long as we can read you this information that's coming out and give you information and help you do the research, and we can look stuff up together and talk about it, we can make these long-form shows, make them work. The goal isn't necessarily to sell you anything. The goal is not to convince you of anything. The only goal is to provide you with as much accurate information as possible to lower your level of fear from the unknown. Because the more you know, the less is going to be unknown. The less that is unknown, the lower your fear levels will be, the less likely you are to make rash, poor decisions about what to do for yourself or for your family when these situations occur. Do we think they're going to let us go in peace? No. They're going to just let Trump walk right into the White House and a peaceful transition of power? No. I don't see that coming. I'm surprised it's been as stable as it has been this long. I'm not expecting that. So I plan on doing this every single day. And I'm trying to decide what hours. I'm thinking from maybe 9 at night till 11 at night, just because a lot of the other creators and other journalists I see, they kind of all stop around 9 or 10. The latest one was like probably 10 casts, and I think that's over at 9. So I want to do so by the end of the day, I get all the news from all throughout the day. And no matter what, you can always play it back if you don't want to sit here on live. But there's so much happening. There's no such thing as a slow news day. I don't know how some of these people are taking off 2 weeks during the craziest time in American and human history. I have no idea. So much is happening in such a short period of time, and we have to keep up with it so that we're not caught with our pants down. We want to be prepared for the future. Even though I agree with PBD, the future does look bright. It's only going to be as bright as you make it. It's up to you. Remember, we're all in control of our own individual futures. The future is not bright for everybody, but it can be bright for you. You're in control over it. But the only way you're going to be in control over it is if you have enough information to make the best decisions for yourself. You don't want to do anything crazy, or you don't want to fall for too much of the misinformation propaganda, because these same news stations will tell you one thing today and then double back and secretly correct themselves in 3 days. And it'll be something that we could have cleared up for you the same night. So that's why I like to just read and go through the news. Like I said, again, the bird flu topic it's similar to those other topics that we cannot discuss about 2020 and 2021. You guys probably know what that is. So we're not going to get too deep into that. We'll just go over some of these other articles. For example, what the hell's going on with Jay Leno's face? I believe I met the man forever ago back in Glendale, back when I lived in LA. Met him one time. Seemed like a really nice old guy. To see that someone is doing this to him, it's scary. His face is just beat to hell several different times. And, they're saying, like he fell into something, but they're asking if he has gambling debts. The man he's worth a lot of money. So what kind of debt are you in that you can't pay people that this is what's happening to you? And there's no one around them. That just goes to show, once you have money and success, you have no friends. You have dependents. Because as soon as one of your friends or family member asks you for something and you don't deem it worthy to give them the first time, they're no longer your friends and family no more. And eventually, one day, everyone turns on you and you're alone. Now, that also happens to men who are poor, but it's more inclined, but you see that pattern a lot in men who have the means. But you can't go off of just that too. Think about it. Michael Jordan, Bill Cosby, their fathers had extreme gambling debts as well. Actually, I think it was Bill Cosby himself. And when you don't pay, they'll do this to your children if they can't access you. So it's a sad thing to see a legend like this go through this torment. Jesus Christ. Oh, this is that fire back in 2022. That's the thing. I tell people there's no such thing as retiring. Even if your job, if you're on television every day and you're doing a show, just because they cancel it or still keep working, still keep doing stuff. Idle hands are the devil's workshop. You pick up bad habits like gambling, like drinking, like just becoming lethargic. Don't retire. Keep going. What are some of these other Fox News? You know what? I actually have another. There's also news. I like the New York Post. I respect them the most because they broke the Hunter Biden laptop from hell story that I lost my Facebook page of 12 years for just sharing. So I try to go through them for finding stories that other people might not want to report on. This is sports related. I do read some sports stuff, but I'm not necessarily a huge sports fan. Um, fuck. Okay, we'll talk about it. This is what I was afraid of when it comes to the H1B scenario with bringing in workers from these other countries. I just wanted to get through the election. I knew this was going to be an issue before the election because what Americans like myself were running on was we want to reduce immigration. As of right now, we don't see the need for it. I don't understand how someone in India or Sri Lanka can be better trained for a tech job than an American here who goes to school and studies in the exact same profession. As far as I can tell, it's like they're building up their own separate system, their own separate cult, where they bring in people from these other countries. And even though they become American citizens and they got these visas and they live here, they're paid less for doing work that an American would rightly, expect more for. So it's like they're bringing in, it's like they're importing their own slave class. Now, I understand the premise because they're thinking to themselves, China's going to bring these people if we don't. China's going to make them slaves if we don't. They're going to put them to work, and any advancements or any innovations that come out are going to be in their favor. The difference is China, they don't have what we have to offer, which is freedom. But depending on what country you come from, freedom isn't something you're used to, and it's not something you're going to expect. So I guess they think that if they do a little bit better by these people and they bring them here, then these people will be more loyal to the United States. But that's not putting America first, because that's not putting Americans first. There's already enough people here. You don't necessarily have to import a pool of talent. You can literally create a pool here. The only reason why you wouldn't want to pull from people here is because insurance liabilities, and they think Americans have a poor work ethic. And it just depends on which Americans you hire. If you're hiring woke Americans from these institutions, these universities, if you're hiring Americans who struggle with mental illness when it comes to gender dysmorphia, or if they believe in imaginary oppressions or oppressors standing in front of their doors of their dorm room, holding them back. It depends. You have to be selective on who you're hiring. They're purposely seeming to hire people from these other countries because they're hard workers. They're naturally conservative. So they're more loyal, and it's just they're easier to work with. However, we voted against that. Capitalism and patriotism are coming to a head. Patriotism has to win because that is what we want. Ramaswamy and Musk are both signaling that they would literally die on this hill. I do not know why. There's got to be a compromise. Trump is there. It doesn't make sense to constantly bring millions of people from other countries to do white collar jobs that there are millions of Americans that are trained to do here that literally don't have the opportunities, or they're not being hired. Yes, you can go into the private sector and do your own thing, but everyone's not built for that. And just because you're in America doesn't mean you should have to be. You should be able to find gainful employment if you're a good employee and this is your specialty. Why do you have to have that accent from India to be hired to do jobs in the United States? You should not have to. And it doesn't make any sense unless you want a pool of workers who are dedicated to you, the business, more than they are dedicated to their family and to the country that they live in. That's a crisis that we're going to come into. The men that helped us get across that line, like Ramaswamy and Musk, there's always a compromise. Everyone's going to want something. So let's hear what they're talking about. I know they brought it up on Fox, but I wanted to hear what they said.
Trump supporting Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy after the two-bagged H-1B visas for foreign workers, telling the New York Post, quote, "I've always liked the visas. I've always been in favor of the visas. That's why we have them. I have many H-1B visas on my properties. I've been a believer in H-1B. I've used it many times. It's a great program."
Okay, why? What do you have on any of your properties? As far as I know, he builds hotels and does real estate. What real estate project would you have many H-1B visa applicants or visa, people that are on those visas? Why would you have so many of them on your properties that are not guests? What work are any of these H-1 visa recipients? What type of work are they doing where you have so many of them? Because many means a lot. What work are they doing that's so special that an American who's already in the United States, who was born here, went to school here, went to college here, student loan debt based right here, what jobs are these H-1 visa people doing that an American cannot do? And I love Trump. I'm wearing his hat. I respect the president. I've literally fought for the man for years. But it's okay to hold each other accountable. And if I have a question, it should be a simple answer. What types of jobs are these that you have so many of these people doing on your properties? You work in real estate. You work at a hotel. Even if they're doing IT, Americans can do IT. Americans do IT. Americans specialize in that. We don't need to outsource it to someone in India or Pakistan. America first means Americans first. It's not just America. But see, I'm not just America first. I'm America only. So I don't see the use of us bringing in hundreds of thousands or millions of people annually from other countries to do jobs that there's already people in America equipped to do that are out of work. There's hundreds of millions of people here. What is our job right now in America? Was it 18% unemployment? How much of that is by choice? And how much of that is because these visa people are being given priority because they accept less money? They'll sign contracts for, non-compete contracts or what is it? There's definitely a level of control here that's not obvious on the surface. But let's finish the rest of see what Fox is talking about when it comes to this.
Our next guest, though, is not sold on Trump's claims. Joining us now is American Majority founder and CEO Ned Ryan. Wow, a lot of confusion around this because, as you know, first of all, welcome and Happy New Year. As you know, Donald Trump had a lot of criticisms for this program and said there were a lot of abuses of it. Elon Musk has now come out, Vivek Ramaswamy, and now Donald Trump told the New York Post this. So what is your take?
Well, my take is the entire conversation started around increasing the number of H-1B visas, which was precisely the wrong place to start a conversation and expanding what is a broken and abused system. And I think a lot of people can acknowledge the H-1B visa system is broken. It's been abused. Elon posted some things last night that I think would be a nice starting point, that you have to significantly raise the minimum salary and then add an annual cost to these H-1B visas to maintain them. I think we have to get to the point, Rachel, where we make it prohibitively expensive to have an H-1B visa to really focus on having those truly exceptional people come in and use them. But Rachel, I think the thing has to be the thing that has to be discussed, the fundamental issues around this whole entire debate, is that America fundamentally is not an economic zone. We're not some global storefront. Americans should not be treated as second-class citizens in their own country because federal policy allows billion-dollar corporations to to hire foreign workers at under market wages instead of paying American workers full wages.
He's right. But let's be honest here. There's nothing exceptional or better about these people that they want to bring over here than there are Americans. For one thing, these are people who do tasks with their minds. These are not athletes where only certain types of people can do certain things because they don't have the height, so everyone can't dunk. Everyone doesn't have the weight, so they can't run other humans over. Those are gladiators. Those are very specific specialty. I'm talking about people who are just using their minds. People who are doing numbers, typing reports, fixing why. There's nothing exceptional that you're going to bring some savant from another country over here to work or do in technology. These people are employees. They follow orders, they perform tasks, they work on certain groups. It's not like they're just they're just coming up with new ideas and new inventions every day and contributing. These people are drones. They're worker bees. There's nothing super exceptional about them, which would say, hey, they're actually better at this than Americans. Yeah, don't get me wrong. Customer service, yeah, Americans just aren't good at that because they want to hire the cheapest Americans they can find, and we know who those are. And those people are the worst on the phone. You don't want to call and get one of them on the phone. If you do, just hang up. That call is over. You're not going to get anywhere. But besides doing that, none of these jobs are so difficult that you have to find exceptional talent from another country. But these people are so exceptional and so advanced, but they will come over here and take a 20 or 30% pay cut than an American solely on the fact that they just don't know any better. I don't know. I don't buy it.
So if we can start to frame the conversation that way and understand the system is broken, it needs to be reformed, and the American people should actually be prioritized in all things, that really is the message of America first.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But what did Musk say? Let's see here. Musk H-1B visa. Let's see what he has to say. Easily fixed by raising the minimum salaries and significantly adding yearly costs for maintaining H-1B visa. Okay, so then you're really not saving that much money. Then why not just hire an American? The reason I'm in America, along with so many critical people who built SpaceX, Tesla, and hundreds of other companies that made America strong, is because of H-1B. Take a big step back and take a step back and fudge yourself in the face. I will go to war on this issue like the likes issue, the likes of which you could not possibly comprehend. I don't think there's any type of war in a regular American could not comprehend. We would like to see such, an attack. I don't know how you expect to use language like this and threaten Americans, and then how many months is it going to be from now before they're asking for people to volunteer to put the Neuralink in their head? Again, he was a net positive around getting over the finish line for the election, but I never trusted the man because he's a lying piece of shit. He lies to people about outer space. He pretends that there's a Tesla Roadster in orbit, orbiting the planet at 71,000 miles per hour, the speed of a bullet, indefinitely. And he goes along with all the nonsense about the space station, satellites, and going to Mars and Jupiter and to black holes and nebulas and the Hubble, all the bullshit and the lies. He perpetuates it. And he's one of a very select few that could have broke that and told the truth about it. So I don't trust the guy in the first place. But the reason I'm in America, so Elon Musk came here on an H-1B visa. Let me see here. Elon Musk came to America when? Elon Musk came to the US in 1999. So he's only been here 25 years. When did Elon Musk go to America? Musk got his Canadian citizenship the same year. It would have been easier to get American citizenship that way. Musk moved to the United States in 1992 to study business and physics. Okay. Well, let's see. The reason I'm in America, along with so many, is because of the visa. Or are you in America because only in America could you have even opened these businesses? The same Americans you're telling to go fuck in our faces are the same people that built the infrastructure here that you could come over here and actually expand. If that wasn't the case, then you would have moved to another country, or you would have done this in South Africa, your home country. But you couldn't thrive everywhere. You can't grow everywhere. I've lived in Europe. I've lived in probably 6 different countries. I speak 4 languages, 5 technically. I know the differences between these other places and the United States. So I have a deeper appreciation for the United States. Never let these people convince you that they're here for anything else besides what Americans have built, which is an infrastructure that we fight to maintain. If he would have moved to the UK, they speak English. So he's not just there because he speaks English and it's easier to communicate. He couldn't go to the UK and where they have socialized healthcare, start a company, and the company's not going to be taxed to hell every year to cover social services. Why do you think people don't just invent? Why do you think there's not a separate Facebook in every Western country? Because they're all dumb, because they can't read, because they don't know what a website is? No. They don't all do their own thing because it's too expensive. Also, the cost benefit is not worth it. If you say you make $1 million, they're going to tax you 80% of it. So you'll probably get 200 grand of that, if even. Sometimes your taxes can be higher. And that's where a lot of people get their, who's paying for all the free stuff they're giving to the immigrants that they've let pour into these countries? Business owners are. So for a regular person, you don't even see the benefit of starting your own business because you don't get to keep any of the money. That's why people come to the United States to do business, because if you have the right accountant and you set up your nonprofits and you work things out with, creative, get creative with your numbers, you can keep the majority of the money that you make. That's no other country is going to allow you to do that. So let's be real, Elon. You're here for the same reason everybody else wants to be here. And that's because of money. But the reason the money is flowing like that is because Americans fought and died to make sure we weren't taxed to hell and we did not become some socialist, communist hellhole, which is we're slowly going there now. Bringing all these different people over here for jobs that Americans are already here to do makes no logical sense unless it's about capitalism and making more money, but also to ensure that these people are loyal. The problem is, an American who has the same access but even with less money than Elon, if he was in there working with Elon and a little bit of creativity, he could literally try to compete with Elon. But if you bring somebody from a third world country that you can fully control their life once they get here, you don't have to worry about them trying to compete with you later or building up a clone of something you're already doing. You don't have to worry about being someone that you're basically training the next Lyft to your Uber. You don't have to worry about that. I think that's probably what he's worried about. Americans, it's a part of our attitude, because in our head, we're like, well, if you can do it, why can't I do it? What's special about you? What do you have in your brain? What's going on in your head that makes you smarter than me, where you can figure out how to do this, but I cannot? And there's nothing. Any of us can read and learn something. Now, could I learn how to be a barber? I could take the test, but am I good with clippers? No. if I can I can go to school and learn medicine and learn how the human body works, and I could become a surgeon. Would I be good at doing surgery? No, I'm bad with details. I'm not an artist. That's not my thing. You got to go with your strong points. But anybody can learn how to do anything. And I guess when you're going to have people working in your critical systems at your company, and you don't want your secrets to get out, and you don't want someone trying to go behind your back and start their own version of what you're doing, you're going to have to surround yourself with people who are basically, they owe their whole life to you. It's like but think about it. I can understand why you would want to do that too. I get it. That makes sense. You don't want to create your own competition. You want people that are going to be loyal to you. The problem is that conflicts with America first and our America first, Americans first agenda. It conflicts. It's conflicting. And I don't know. I mean, if this guy, look at the way he's talking. Does it sound like he's looking to compromise? Does it sound like he's willing to negotiate? No, it doesn't like it to me. I don't think that's healthy. And it sucks because I really respect him. Well, to be honest, I don't like the fact that he lies about space. And he gives everyone all this false hope, and he bullshits them about 2 years from now going to Mars. There is no going to Mars. So unless you're going underwater to some place that you're going to call Mars, there is nothing. There's nowhere to go. Like Trump said years ago, rockets that go nowhere. Let's see here. Can we clear this up for everyone as well? Oh, this is what I was just saying. Elon Musk did not start here on a visa. He had a student visa that changed to a work visa. Here's a snippet of his him making that claim, which was not true. It's not true. But why is he going so hard about it? I mean, that is a really extreme thing to say to a bunch of America First people, which, I mean, there's a lot more of us who are identifying as America First. I mean, I know he's not a politician, but Jesus Christ, you're not thinking about tomorrow. You're not considering how this sounds or how it looks, or you don't even want to compromise and say, okay, maybe we'll bring over less people. Maybe we'll bring over less people on visas, but you're asking to bring, why do you need more people on these visas? There are more people that are turning 25, that are graduating college, that are already here, that need places to work. When we talk about leaders of industry, we're talking about people who are employers, people that are employers. So I'm actually, it's a shame. Oh, look at this clown. Yeah, this whole situation with Musk it's sad. It's unfortunate. I wish it wasn't happening. But if this is what it's gonna be, so be it. Let's see here. You know who actually had a good point about this? Steve Bannon on Musk and the visas. He called it for what it is. Sounds like a war.
This whole thing about, we want to get all this and they're only geniuses, that's H-1B visas. That's not what it's about. It's about taking American jobs and bringing over essentially what become indentured servants at lower wages.
That's true.
Like I told those guys, remember, hey, if you got an Einstein, every 25 years, come to us. Maybe we can make an exception for Einstein. Maybe, if it's proven. The whole thing's a scam. This thing's a scam by the oligarchs in Silicon Valley to basically take jobs from American citizens, give them to what become indentured servants from foreign countries, and then pay them less. Simple. To let them into through the golden door.
That's it. And that's a loophole that's going to have to close unless Americans First is no longer the agenda. And then we might as well just call ourselves Democrats. and put everybody else first. That's it. Might as well just be real. Let's be honest. Let's go back to my Safe and Effective podcast page. Kirk also spoke on this too.
Contract. And it sounds good. Let's just let more H-1B in. But what about the 23-year-old that went to University of Washington and studied computer science at the UW Computer Science Department? Shouldn't he be given preference above someone who could do the work for far less? It is about priorities, and it's not about what Charlie Kirk wants. It's not about what other people want out there. And I have friends on both sides of this debate. It's very simple. It's what the American people want. And the American people overwhelmingly voted for less immigration and the prioritization of the American children and the American worker, not the American oligarch.
Could not agree more. Could not agree more. I don't even know how this is up for debate at all. We voted for less immigration. We're tired of it. We have been silent about it. We've been accommodating. And now the people we've accommodated are setting us on fire in bus stations. Me? Am I being set on fire? No. But I'm a big, strong man who possibly could, defend himself in a situation of said attempted firing like that. But they're targeting children and women with their aggressions openly. And they're catching, it's a lot of this happening in New York, and they want to brush it under the table, yada, yada. But bringing all these people in here who are not from here, who don't care about this place, they don't care about the people, they're not here to conform, they're not here to become one with our society, they don't want to learn the language. And a lot of them now are not even here to work. They're just living off of, it's like our cities pretend that money is infinite. And they can just spend as much of it as they want to. It's going to always be replenished. And I guess because of the Federal Reserve, it will be in a way. But then again, they come and they tax the citizens. And not to say your tax money is going to ever go to what you want it to go to anyway. I definitely don't want it to go towards strangers. If I went to their country and decided I didn't want to work, would their local people contribute to a government fund that's taken out of their money every month that's going to pay for me to live comfortably? Fuck no. So why are you coming over here to do that? Why are you coming here and expecting to live like that? It doesn't make any sense. And no one has a really good answer for me on why that's why the double standard, why are we expected over more than they are? Like, it doesn't make sense. So, I mean, if somebody has a suggestion, I'm open to it. I'm all ears, but I don't hear any. Not anybody good. And I'm looking. So I try to post counter arguments also. I don't delete the comments. I don't censor the people. I'm actually open to hearing them. Yeah, when they talk about our poison food supply and we're like, when they talk about all the different birds, flus, and the meat flus and
vaccines, who is funding our vaccination programs. You've seen Bill Gates has literally moved into this country.
You can just read that for yourself. I'm not going to talk about it because I can't. Not allowed to talk about these things. So I just got to pick and choose which topics I go through. This is a good one too, but I'm not going to play that video. Can talk about the trans stuff. Can talk about anything. Just can't talk about that. Let's see here.
Your local transsexual.
Yes, so you said your local transsexual.
I just wonder where you get this idea that like trans people are being indoctrinated.
Okay, so are you say you're transsexual or transgender? And tell me, is there a technical difference in the two?
Oh, goodness. What about my hormones? Hormones by themselves, you can actively change. By taking HRT, you can also stop taking the T suppressor.
So people are more than hormones. I mean, You got men with low testosterone. Those are called white dudes for Harris. You can have.
Hello,
Yeah.
my name's Eve.
This trans thing is, if you're a normal person, you don't realize how big this is getting until you actually sit on the internet. And you're like, wait a minute. There's people that are actually believing this. And you would think it's a joke, but there's people that are thinking that this stuff is real. They really think that there can be a man who can chop off a bunch of stuff and become a woman. And they have no idea that 100% of gender transition surgeries have all failed. There's never been one gender reaffirmation surgery that's ever successfully changed a man into a woman, a functioning woman, or a functioning woman into a male. I mean, if you guys want to take a break and go to Rumble, I can tell you where those the fake penis, I can tell you where it comes from. And with the vagina, that thing they're calling a vagina, I can tell you what it really is. If you want to slide X with me, Club Rico Podcast on X, I'll gladly tell you what it really is if you want to know. But it's not what you think. Those surgeries don't work. They're a waste of money. And all it does is before the age of 34 on average, they wake up and they hit the delete button on themselves. And if you think about it, what's the World Economic Forum's agenda of depopulation? You know, the most efficient way to do it would be just to convince people to do it to themselves. That way you don't have to drop a missile or provoke 2 proxy wars and hoping that they'll attack each other's populations. Because even that's not as effective as convincing someone that they're gay or trans, because once you realize that lifestyle for those people, on average, they self-delete before they turn the age of 34, then you understand there's a depopulation agenda. Also, if you're identifying and having those issues, if you're identifying that way, you don't have children. So there's no one replacing you. There is no replacement. You don't have a son, you don't have a daughter, and you just happen to self-delete at 34. That's it. That's the end of your bloodline. There is no one else. So you got to keep that in mind, that we're literally walking into it and everyone's still pretending that they don't know what the hell's going on. See, I'm doing these like long conversations, but I'm going to hire somebody that's going to like edit them, chop them down, add the thumbnails or whatever. And then I'll have like a bunch of little shorter segments for each topic. Happy to see this. Judge rules that Big Fannie Willis can be forced to testify under oath about crimes she committed during the Rico lawfare case against Trump. Never let up. Never let these people think they can get away with just destroying our Constitution and getting rid of all legal norms and using lawfare and basically just being a paid hitman to go after someone and attempt to destroy their reputation for political gains. I mean, technically, in my opinion, she's a terrorist. That is what the definition of terrorism is. If this page is Safe and Effective Podcast, then you know what happened to this guy right here. Just go to my page. This is another thing. This is where they were getting their money from until recently, and then they started pushing this whole trans thing on kids who are autistic. See, when I was a kid, right, kids would develop, after their wellness visit, kids started having issues. We know what caused those issues, the brain swelling. We know what caused the swelling. We know what happens at those wellness things. And a lot of my friends, I have a brother that was also diagnosed with ADHD. And what that means is that you're just a regular fucking kid. Matter of fact, I remember they used to call it being hyper. You're just a normal, active child, and they wanted to give you drugs. But then when you get to school, they'll give you a t-shirt that said DARE on it. I don't know if anybody remembers the DARE program. It stood for Drug Abuse Resistance Education. I was in elementary school, but we had moved schools, so I had to go through that program twice. So I remember that. But for me to grow up and find out that while you're in these programs where you're anti-drugs, and they were literally giving these kids drugs in my schools for just being hyper or being curious or wanting to move around or not wanting to just sit still like some kind of factory worker in 3rd grade. And they would medicate these children. And then these kids grow up and have all types of issues, and no one wants to consider that maybe it's something that happened to them when they were young. And it's just now you're getting the effects, you know. Life's not a Netflix movie. Everything doesn't happen within 1 hour and 26 minutes. Some things take many years to pop back up. Let's go down my news feed. What else do we see here? So it begins. We got 3 more months of winter. And that'll still put us before the first lockdown in 2020, which was in March. Huh. Crazy. They're lining up the timelines. If they can pull it off, I mean, they're going to have to do something massive. I know what it would take. I'll tell you on X and if you come to the Rumble page, but yeah, because right now I'm also on YouTube. So let's see here. Not surprised, the 13 are here again. The 13. You know, before this picture came out, and because of the part of the country she lived in, her people, his people, their people were already saying this was race motivated. It was white supremacists, evil white people, blah, 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 blah. And like always, it turns out to be one of their own. And now they don't say anything anymore. They're not calling for justice. They're not calling for riots. They're not just, okay, said I guess. If you know what the page name is, you know what this means. You can come here and read. You can read the rules. I gave people rules. Follow them or you can ignore them. I can't go into the rules yet because we're not on X or Rumble. Does anybody remember this whole Emmanuel Macron's wife situation? He has the same thing going on with his significant other as Barack. And both of their significant others, they're not, it's hard to pull it off when you're a man, but you're older now. Because even with the estrogen, it's hard to keep it together because your biology won't lie.
They got legs like a man. They got shoulders like a man.
That's real.
Yeah, that's real. Yeah, her hand is crazy. Can you go down to her hand? The thing about it too, how much older is she?
20, 30 years.
30 years. That is bizarre.
Yeah, that's is that
Yes.
week?
Yeah.
Wow.
You tweeted dude.
Yeah, you're right.
Hey, you see her shoulders, she has broad shoulders. But the one thing women have over men naturally, that thighs and parts and butt is bigger. Yeah, the guy, look how skinny her thighs is.
Yeah, they look identical. Like that shot right there.
Yeah, she has no.
Who the fuck is Twins Pod? I don't know. But he's definitely not as funny as these two guys. I don't know. Maybe I should do more collaborations with other conservative right-wing people. Because I mean, they'll do one with this guy. He was acting shocked. You know, a lot of people, they're not going to want to have these conversations that I'm going to have just because they don't want to get canceled or whatever. I could care less. I'm more worried about accuracy.
Okay. Oh, hell no.
E.T. Oh god. I want to laugh more, but again, I was just I'm still getting over this little cold I had for a few days, and I never get sick too. You know, if this would happen a month from now, they'd have been swearing it was because of the bird flu. Just stick to building rockets, people.
Husbands who abused adopted sons.
Georgia couple will spend the rest of their lives in prison after sexually abusing 2 young boys they adopted.
The rest of their lives is not enough. But also putting people on death row for 30 years is ridiculous. I don't think people get it right when they get convicted of these crimes. I don't believe that the government's always right. We're going to do another story in a little bit where you can just see where people can be arrested with zero evidence. And that makes me think that there's a lot of people in jail that are probably innocent. But these are men that are on video. It's a completely different situation. These men literally, that's what they do from the LGBT. They go out and they adopt other people's children just so that they can abuse and trade pictures and sell them to other people. And a lot more of them are getting caught than before, but not enough. And I listen to this story that they're going over right now. I'm like, well, where are the fucking social workers? Because they're quick to come take kids from their parents. So where are the social workers going to follow up with these people now? Well, how did they not know this? Why?
Sentenced to 100 years in prison without parole after pleading guilty to multiple charges of sexual abuse after their 2 adopted sons, including aggravated sodomy, incest, and sexual exploitation of children. The crimes came to light when the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children tipped authorities about homemade child sexual abuse material, CSAM, linked to the Zolox IP address. Investigators found surveillance footage and electronic evidence, including graphic images and messages documenting the abuse.
Man who admitted to viewing this material and claimed he received it from Zachary, according to McGinley. Lawless was sentenced to 20 years, with the first 12 to be served in prison after pleading guilty to charges related to the material. He also cooperated with police as they investigated the Zolox. Officers then searched the Zolox residence, and the couple admitted to sexually abusing their 2 boys, according to McGinley. In their search, police seized indoor surveillance cameras and their cell phones. This led them to discover footage of the Zolox abusing the children.
Husbands who abused adopted sons.
Georgia couple.
This is why I respect President Vladimir Putin so much. Years ago, he banned this. You think the Russians didn't find out that gay and trans American sex tourists were coming to their country, adopting beautiful children that their parents might have passed away or some other unfortunate situation landed them in foster care? And they were, they would have their own versions of a caseworker or people that would follow up a year or 2 later. And the people are like, what kid? We didn't adopt a kid from you. What are you talking about? These kids come up dead. These kids come up missing. And you get them from another country. They don't get properly registered. You don't vet them. I mean, just look how it is. We have 300,000 kids right now that are missing that have come across the border with no parents. No one knows where they are. Can't find them. You want to know where they are? They're with men like this. See, as far as I could tell, this last election was a compromise. And there were 2 groups that made up the entire base of the Democrat Party. And there were certain, and these 2 groups had conditions that were needed to be met to gain their support. It was the Black community and it was the gay community. This is what the gay community wanted in exchange for their support and their votes. These men adopted these kids, X amount of years ago. This is becoming more mainstream. These men want access to children, but they want it to be legal. They want to say love is love. So that way there is no limit you can put on it. And then they also can be protected by the alphabet community, the LGBT. They're under that umbrella also. That's what the whole transgender, trans age situation. They get little kids like this and they say, well, this kid identifies as 25 years old. So if they want to, mutilate themselves or remove body parts for gender affirmation surgery, they can actually kidnap kids and take them to California. California is a sanctuary state for that behavior, for that activity. You can't do anything about it. They get the kid to California, even if the kid's being kidnapped. They say what the kid is, if that's what the kid's there for, there's nobody coming to arrest you or anything. People don't know the country they live in, but this is protected. And this is what Kamala Harris and Joe Biden was offering. They were offering decriminalization for this. Matter of fact, Senator Anthony Weiner out of San Francisco successfully was able to make it so that it wouldn't even, you don't have to register as a sex offender if they say that the child is gay too. A lot of people don't know that. And as far as the Black community, if you've ever watched any of them, their leaders talk, they said that, well, the reason the crime rates are so high in the Black areas is because the crimes should be reclassified and the definition of crime needs to change. So what they want is they want to be able to commit crimes with immunity, and what the gays wanted is in exchange for their support for the Democrat Party, is they want access to children without having to worry about going to jail or having to register as a sex offender or being, locked in prison for 100 years. And they were getting close. But now that Trump's taken office and people know that law and order the switch is getting turned back on, all of this is going to stop. Question is, we're going to have to keep the pressure up. We lost 4 years for nothing. What did we get out of the past 4 years? Not a damn thing. Shit, if anything, we lost. So let's keep that in mind. What's this weirdo talking about?
I'm also a part of marginalized groups that have been historically oppressed, and it's like, keep on raising awareness and slaying. I hope that we reach more equity soon.
We actually have a equity commitment form. You can actually give up your spot at university for a member of the Tonga tribe. Is this something that you'd be willing to do for this underrepresented, underprivileged community?
Honestly, no, but I hope somebody else does. That's great.
Not currently. I would need to think about it more.
I personally don't view myself as privileged. I don't think I would be willing to give up my spot at UCLA. I think that my ethnicity's representation is also important. I'm a Black student.
Who should we find to give up their spot?
What's Black about you?
That's a tough question. Anybody that is willing and feels that they're represented in the right way here.
But you know what I mean? I can't make a split-second decision.
All a bunch of hypocrites. That's a funny telling video. What is, do I know this video? Let's see here.
Multiculturalism working. Here is what you told me. 5% of those yes, 99%.
Yeah, but the UK don't have guns. They can talk tough and they'll probably stab you, but it's not going to cut it, buddy. They're being thrown in jail. If you're a white person and you talk out about immigration, you are fucked. They're knocking on your doors. Thank God for the American Constitution and God bless America, because that could be us right now. I remember they were doing that when you would speak out against the scamdemic in Australia and in the UK. We didn't have to worry about that here. So we're still ahead, but we can lose ground. I mean, we lost 4 years for no reason recently. So let's see here. Oh, I can't play that one. Let's try this one.
Ashley, Merry Christmas. It's wonderful to be.
This is somebody who worked on the Harris campaign.
This is the money that I worked so hard to raise. I raised millions in this, and donors are feeling burdened. Let me tell you, though I might be the only one coming forward, I haven't met a single donor who disagrees with me.
So what's been the response, Lindy, since you made your announcement?
Vitriolic. And they say they're not a cult, but look at how they behave when one of their own dares to think for herself. The excommunication, the defamation, the public shaming, the boycott campaigns, the psychological terrorism. I no longer have comments on any of my social media because it's just too much. I don't need that. It's just endless. And as soon as you step out of line, they will get you.
The Democrats haven't changed. Kamala Harris, Joe Biden, they've been this way for years. If you look at Joe Biden's career, he's been the same way. Kamala Harris has always been a horrible politician, terrible at her job, incompetent. So what the fuck were you working for them for if you disagree so bad? See, this is what I don't like. Where were all these people yesteryear?
Thank you. This has been a long time coming. My initial disillusionment became clear when I realized that they were essentially set $2.5 billion on fire. They raised $1.5 billion through the campaign, another $1 billion through the super PAC Future Forward, and there's been no accountability. We still haven't gotten any answer as to why Oprah, a billionaire, got $2.5 million through her production company. Why couldn't she pay for it? She's an oligarch. She could have just paid for the production costs herself.
Okay, why were you there fundraising if you felt this way? Why were you over there? What is you should hold yourself accountable. In my opinion, you're just a grifter. You're another low-life grifter. Good at finessing people, but magically you only have all this to say after you failed and you guys lost. So you didn't care about the children being trafficked. You didn't care about the Americans and the first-line responders losing their jobs back in 2021 over an unconstitutional mandate. You don't want to speak out against any of that. But what you're worried about is a funky 2 million punk-ass dollars that went to fucking Oprah when 2.5 billion was burnt up. Now you care about something you didn't care at all when it was. There's a whole lot of these grifters coming out lately, and it's annoying. It's annoying because they're just trying to save their ass. What they're noticing is that no one has a stomach to hire these Democrat, liberal, entitled idiots who have zero loyalty to anyone. They know if they hire you, as soon as there's an issue or as soon as you don't get your way, you're going to come out with a hit piece about them. Why would anybody purposely want to bring on another liability like that? There's no logical sense in doing so. I wouldn't do it. And this is a good point. My parents can't commute to India. 60% of Americans say U.S. does not need any more visa workers. Of course. Of course. Doesn't make any sense. Because think about it. Once you bring in one person that is a worker, they got a whole family full of bums who don't want to work.
This is the main problem. I have 7 children. So, it's many children together. So the problem is very hard for me to go from one shelter to another with 7 children. And some of those shelters don't want to accept me because the amount of children I have 7 children. When they find out I have 7 children, they don't want to take us. Also, another problem that we have, the children have a benefit.
Okay. We have people that are already in the United States have children as well. Why would you move kids to another country and expect anything besides having to bust your ass to take care of your kids yourself? It makes no sense. And now he's a translator. She's the mom. And she does not want to work. She's here with her children. She's not working. She's complaining about no one wants to give her free stuff for her kids. There are millions of people that look like her already over here who also have the same issue that we already have to make accommodations for the rest of their lives. They will never not live on the government. They will never not live in government housing. They will never not be on welfare. They will never not be on food stamps for the rest of their lives. There are communist communities, communes that are already living inside of a capitalist society, and our capitalism funds their lifestyle. And she's just sitting there. Who brought her here? How did she get here? Whose responsibility is it now to take care of her that she is here? Actually, you know what? I do know somebody that really would like to take care of her. He's a good friend. I'm going to pass her number on to him. His last name is Human. He will definitely provide some shelter for her and all of her kids, and he will keep the family together. He will absolutely keep the family together. This was a funny video.
Sounds good. Anything else? No, that's it. Sounds good. Just got to ask you a quick question on the screen. Just a quick question. Thought so. Sounds good. Anything else?
Bro, going to Starbucks is not what it used to be. I love these videos too. He's sitting there talking about Obama's birth certificate, which we knew was fake many, many years ago. People are only barely finding out about this. You guys thought you thought they tried to get one over on you with Kamala Harris pretending that she was black? No. Imagine when they had to pretend Obama was an American born in America and Big Mike was born a woman. But they have to do it with words because they have no proof. They can't show you nothing. So they have to basically shame you. It's the same thing they did with Kamala. Remember, they were like, remember when Obama came and chastised everybody and said, y'all, you guys are misogynists. That's why you don't want to vote for a woman and blah, blah, blah. And people were like, fuck you. They did the same thing. They tried the same way of shaming you into submission. That wasn't the first time they did that. And now everyone's starting to look back and say, well, what else did Obama do this about? It was about his husband and about this birth certificate situation too.
Terrible pal. Nobody knows who he is until later in his life. It's very strange. She may have one, but there's something on that person. Maybe religion, maybe it says he's a Muslim. I don't know. People that actually have been studying it and they cannot believe what they find. I would like to see his college records. I mean, I'd like to see a couple of things. Trump comes along and said, birth certificate. He gave a birth certificate. Whether it was a real certificate, because a lot of people question it, I certainly question it. And you led the birth certificate.
That's not true.
Well, I don't know. It's not true.
So Barack Obama is back making the rounds. Back in 1991, when Barack Obama was completely unknown to the public, he was working with a literary agency that was named Acton and Distal. And this is the biography that they included of Barack Obama. Barack Obama, the first African-American president of the Harvard Law Review, was born in Kenya and raised in Indonesia and Hawaii. Like, he did, by the way, grow up in Indonesia. That's a fact, right? He, the first 8 years of his life were spent in Indonesia. He went.
But all the black people told me he was from Chicago. That's why I said that culturally they lie a lot.
By the name Barry Satora.
This is the Assisi Catholic Grammar School in Jakarta, Indonesia. And Barack Obama is on his way to becoming its most famous former student. The only record of Obama having attended the school is this old register. And look, it lists his name as Barry Soetoro.
I am a firm believer that they are breeding politicians. His background is almost too similar to Kamala Harris's.
They tricked you.
Oh. You know what's crazy in the UK? The next 3 people that were actually in line to become, I believe it's prime minister there, they're all South Asian also. And actually, in Ireland and Scotland too, it's like this South Asian connection pattern. Let's look at the rest of it.
They didn't tell you that to be black is to be controlled. Do you know what Barack and Kamala have in common? I'll tell you, they're not black. You see, they convinced you all that you don't need a nationality and that bloodline meant skin color. Your passport says that your nationality is American, but they told you all that you were black or African American, whatever that is. You see, what's funny is that you all are fighting.
Yeah, what the fuck is African American? If I look at a passport, I've never seen an African American passport that tells people where is the country of Africa, America. It's like I've never seen that place on a map. Maybe it's somewhere in the South. I don't know. But
to not be a part of the country you were born in. And the only reason you all are able to be successful while being black in America is because America is just that great. If you were in any other country, not wanting to be a part of that country, speaking against that country and its government, I guarantee you would have a rough go with your life. But anyway, everybody has the right to choose a nationality. That is a human right. But you all don't even have enough sense to do that. You all want to base everything, your entire existence, on a color that's not even your skin color. So if you want to be the president or the vice president, you will not be able to be that as a black person.
Here, I'll just type it in, enter, here you go. Obama certificate, long form PDF. This says the White House or the Obama White House archives.gov. This is the official .gov website. Okay, this is Obama's birth certificate supposedly. But what I'm about to show you is gonna blow your mind. Like I'm downloading it right now. We're downloading it. Let's bring it up in the files. You know, I've done this a few times now at this point.
I won't waste too much of your time. It's a completely edited document. He shows that the entire document is a forgery, and they just put it in this archive because they didn't think that anybody would ever go through there because people are so afraid of being called a racist or anti-Semite that they will not say anything most of the time or look into it. But I think people are getting over those terms because those terms mean nothing anymore. They're used so much that because it's just a way for someone to try to control you by calling you a name and threatening you. And now it's losing its power because people don't care anymore. Because now it's the truth and accuracy is more important than feeling good or virtue signaling. So the world is healing. Let's see here. Oh, I definitely want to go over that, but I can't. I want to go over this story too. I can't. Okay, this right here.
Surveillance video presented during the trial showed the Dallas anesthesiologist repeatedly taking bags out of a warming bin and then putting them back. Prosecutors say Ortiz injected dangerous drugs into bags at a North Dallas surgical center, causing 11 patients to suffer cardiac emergencies in 2022. Evidence at the trial showed at the time of the emergencies, Ortiz was facing disciplinary action for an alleged medical mistake during one of his own surgeries. One doctor died after taking an IV bag home to treat herself for dehydration. That physician was Dr. Melanie Kaspar. In the trial, her husband, John Kaspar, testified he tried to revive his wife with CPR before paramedics arrived, but was unable to. Then 18-year-old Jack Alderstein also received one of the tainted bags. His doctors testified he nearly died on the operating table. Ortiz was convicted at the trial in April. Surveillance video presented.
How many of you know someone who passed away in a hospital randomly out the blue when you're in the place where you're supposed to be so that this won't happen? You're supposed to go to the hospital to stay alive. And you don't even, I mean, you got to think about it. Whoever pulled this video and did this forensic investigation where they're watching him do this, they could have deleted the video. They could have thrown it under, they could have thrown it, you know, they could have just made it seem like what he was doing was normal or wasn't nothing. Someone literally watched this man and they went back 2 years to collect surveillance footage, and they probably watched this man, at work in this space. They probably watched thousands, tens of thousands of hours of doing this. I mean, you know, medical professionals, they live at work. Somebody really did a good job investigating him, but I wonder who else didn't get caught. How many other psychos are like this in these hospitals? How many other people they're telling you, well, this is how grandma died. This is how your cousin died. This is how, you know, your mother, she had a coronary event just right actually after the procedure. They're not even thinking that somebody is injected. But I wonder, what is his motive? You know, I remember when I would go to a mechanic, one of the first fights I ever got into, actually, my grandmother was like 88, 89 years old. No, probably like 85. I didn't know how old she was. I was like a teenager and I thought she was way younger. And she had a mechanic she used to go to. Every time she leaves a mechanic for one issue, her car breaks down a week later and it's a new issue. And one day she's like upset, crying. And I'm like, what's wrong? She's like, my car. Every time I take it to the guy. So I go across the street and I'm like, hey, she's brought her car to you 4 times. Every time she leaves, there's a new issue a few days later and she has to come back to you and pay you again. Fix what's wrong with my grandmother's car. If there's any other issues, just fix it. But if I find out you're trying to rip her off and scam her, I'm going to come back here and you're not going to work here anymore. And lo and behold, he gave her the car back and something else broke down again a week later. And I made good on my promise. The point of the story is, just like a mechanic, my mechanic was he excited when I bought a Tesla that doesn't have a motor or an engine or some pistons or a cat converter? No, he wasn't happy about that. He's losing money because I don't need him anymore. Do you think somebody who works in a hospital does good when people don't have to come to the hospital? Or is it more in their benefit when you have a bunch of medical issues and you have to keep coming back to them? Don't forget, there's no nonprofit hospitals. All of these hospitals are a business. These are all for-profit employees. And these are all people that are trying to make money. But their money is made off of you in bad health. Because I'm noticing this whole interview, we could watch it again, they never gave his motive. Why was he doing this? And I bet you at the end of the day, he was doing this so that the hospital would make money. And maybe he was under pressure from the board upstairs where they're telling him, we need you to do this and this. And he's translating that in his head to, okay, we need more sick people. We need more people who have medical emergencies. And maybe if I can start the medical emergency and they won't be able to trace it back to me. Because obviously he's a medical professional. He's not a professional criminal.
During the trial, showed the Dallas anesthesiologist repeatedly taking bags out of a warming bin and then putting them back. Prosecutors say Ortiz injected dangerous drugs into bags at a North Dallas surgical center, causing 11 patients to suffer cardiac emergencies in 2022.
And like, again, they never say why. So I'm guessing, this is a wild guess. The reason is why, because those are top-down orders. And now think about it, a lot of hospitals were already being sued for medical malpractice. You know, that's the number 3 cause of death in the United States is medical malpractice. That's horrible. Medical malpractice is the 3rd leading cause of death in the United States. We should talk about that. Anybody who watched the cancer episode we did, that was also, we went over that also. Let's see here. What is this right here?
Is there any point that an abortion should not be legal? No, I think there's absolutely no term limits. This whole ripping babies out of women is just such bullshit. It should be a federal right for women to have an abortion, especially in third term. Is there any point?
Imagine being a psycho who doesn't even realize she's a psycho because she's been smelling her own shit for so many years that it smells like roses now. And the men in her life probably wanted to sleep with her or didn't want to argue, and they would just let her say these things without correcting her, telling her, hey, that's sick and you should have a different view on life, or just, basically compliance. Silence is compliance. These people, when you talk to them, they don't even sound like no one's ever told them that you sound like a maniac. Abortion at any term means also post-birth. Post-fucking birth. That means after the birth. That means the child is born and they keep them comfortable. And then they go in the other room, and then the parents and the doctor discuss whether we're going to commit infanticide or are we going to keep the baby because maybe we don't want another girl. Maybe we don't want another boy. We're shooting for something else. And they keep the kid comfortable until the parents decide if they want to kill it or not. And then for all you know, they don't even kill the kid. They whisk it away somewhere. They can sell it for parts. They can sell it for sex for all you know. And that's reality of where we live. And you know what? And more proof that these schools are worthless and pointless, and your kid's only going there to become an activist anyway. So since if they run out of things to be activists about, they can also do this. Erotic dance, sex work, and queer spaces can be their studies now. At Princeton. Because there's nothing else that Princeton is really good for. The veil of, go to these schools and you're going to get a good job and you're going to be able to afford to pay your student loans. There's nobody in their right mind who's been watching people begging for assistance. You know how many people thought they were going to get their student loans paid off if they voted? Because that's what the guy that's president right now, I remember back when he said, hey, you vote for me, I'm getting your student loans forgiven. I'm paying your student loans off. I remember when he literally offered to buy those votes, and we were all, normal people were like, wait a minute, you can't do that, because what about the rest of us who paid off ours or didn't have them, or we did the right thing? Do we get a rebate, tax credit? They had no suggestion. They had nothing. So why would you want to give away? Wait, that doesn't make sense. So there was never going to be any student loan forgiveness. So though, but think about it. Anybody who is making good money based on the education that they received at one of these elite institutions, why would you need a student loan forgiveness? Why would you care about that? You would be able to, you're gainfully employed, obviously, based on your credentials, unless the credentials that were sold to you were worthless. And in that case, well, then you're going to need help with your student loans because they were worth jack shit. The education was worth nothing. All you did was get really, really drunk and become radicalized, probably cut off your hair, probably became a protester. And that's what you did with all your time. So now you're just looking for different grifts to ride, to protest. You're not going to become gainfully employed because, well, you don't want to follow the rules and the structure because you didn't do that while you were in school. You didn't learn, you didn't pick up that part. So you might as well become an exotic dancer, or sex work is probably going to be one of your only options. And for the latter, you're going to, and for those who don't do those, queer spaces. Because that's the only type of people I'm seeing coming out of these universities. That's it. Nobody else. And this is illegal, but look what they're offering.
Really excited for not just our membership, but the region and the Commonwealth as a whole. I think that these resources and the new programming and the grant funding is going to really help organizations such as the nonprofits that are doing the work in the trenches, helping these small businesses really thrive. But I'm really excited also the fact that there's going to be some dedicated resources to helping would-be entrepreneurs figure it out. It's a tough lift to figure out what you want to get into and how you can help your community thrive. And so I think that these resources going into these organizations that are working with these individuals to help them figure it out, it's going to create a ripple effect. That ripple effect is going to help them get started, lift them up, but also it's going to create jobs, much needed jobs in these communities. It's going to help these communities thrive with the disposable income that these jobs are going to create, making sure that everyone, and they're really excited.
Yeah, shut the fuck up.
Really,
so that's the problem. They've been promising a ripple effect would come from giving them money since the 70s. And we're still waiting for that ripple. The only ripple effect that we're seeing is in the areas where they live, the ripple of all the businesses and the quality of life going down and all the businesses closing in their 20-mile radius of where they are centered at and where they all congregate. The ripple is of destruction, death, and murder, and mayhem, and loss of business and loss of opportunity around them. That's it. That's the only ripple that we can actually see, and we can measure that ripple. The rest of these are just nonsense. Remember, they said, oh, yeah, it's going to boost jobs and it's going to give back to the community and the community this and put in the work and the trenches and all those fucking lies and key buzzwords. It's all bullshit. None of it's true. He's a scammer, just like the other ones. And that's all they're doing is just trying to find a way to shame you into submission and scare you into giving them stuff. And pretending if you don't is why someone who looks like him is going to break into your house. A guy who looks like a walking dick is going to just walk into your house and steal your television. But even with all those grants and funding, they were going to do that anyway. There's really no way around that. And actually, that's a really big problem that we have to talk about in one of these lives. Actually, Adam, this is one of the, and I don't really agree with this guy most of the time. I think he's the weakest link on the PVD podcast, but I understand why he has to be there. There needs to be some balance. You got to have at least one Democrat liberal who lives in the crowd and just believes everything that, corporate says. But he brings it up.
In this entire conversation, and I'm going to say it, what's the common theme that's going on in California? It's not just Californians. It's not just women. It is specifically Black women. And I love my Black brothers and sisters out there. But let me say this, PBD, how many times have we discussed the biggest problem in America, which is the lack of a father in a home? Who's leading the league with single mothers? Well, it is African Americans. Okay, in America, 25% of all homes are born to unwed mothers. I think we're leading the league in single parents. The stats are showing that the world, 7% the world with single parents, 25% in America. So then you have a situation.
He's so nervous to talk about the protected class. He's fucking shaking as he speaks. But he's brave to bring it up in the first place, which I appreciate and respect.
The stats show whites, 30%, I believe, are born out of wedlock. The national average is 40%. Latinos, my Hispanic friends, 53%. My Black and African American friends, 72%. If we want to improve what's going on here in America, we need to.
I didn't even know they had a chart like this on Statista. The U.S. has the highest share of single parenting. I'll be honest. Can you even call what's going on parenting? Does it seem like these kids or these people have parents? Have you ever met them? Not really. No one has.
Bring the father back into the home. Probably said.
Yeah, the father should be there. And, these people, but culturally, they don't believe in fathers. So it's not really that's not an option. And when you try to come up with a reason to explain it away, that's also called an excuse. You can't keep doing that. These are adults. When you make excuses for adults who have poor decisions and poor behavior, it really does a disservice to them because no other group is given that grace. But when you baby one particular group, you make them weak, independent, And it's just like a child. They'll never move out and grow up and be on their own. They're always going to be up under your teat. It'll be a 50-year-old man child living in your parents' house talking about he hates his mom and dad, can't wait for them to die. 50 years old living there. We're literally having that same problem with one particular community in the country. It's really cancerous to the republic. I mean, think about it. The republic almost fell a few months ago to that community and a bunch of pedophiles. That was the whole base. There was no one else going for them. That's it. BLM and pedophiles. And is that what America was boiling down to? That was this race everyone thought was going to be so fucking close. Why was it even a race? They had nothing to offer. There was nothing even being offered except access to children and then to decriminalize crime. And they were already starting to do that in some states, and now it's being reversed. They actually just passed. It's actually one of the next topics, actually. Let me see. Is it on this page? It's up here. Let's see here. It was with Gavin, piece of shit Newsom. I had just seen him. Oh, this is one of them. But that's not the one I was actually thinking of. That was for a drag queen, the story hour event. But no, that's not it. Actually, there was let's bring it up. Actually, Prop 36, California. There are actually these girls who got arrested. But let's read them. Let's see what they're talking about.
Holiday shopping's in full swing, and local law enforcement's not too far behind to combat retail theft across the Sacramento area. Several law enforcement agencies are taking action, making arrests linked to the recent passage of Proposition 36. ABC 10's Garth Paulsonga explains why some are applauding the move, while others are hoping it's not a repeat of history.
Laura, the voter-approved Prop 36 went into effect a little more than a week ago, and local area law enforcement agencies are wasting no time. With the holiday season here, law enforcement is busy. From Yuba City, catching a package thief, to Folsom Police tackling organized retail theft, to Sacramento County Sheriff's Office arresting dozens of people in their own operation.
It's really going to enable the line front level patrol officer to really make a change that retailers can see.
All three retail theft operations crediting Proposition 36 for giving officers more power to tackle these issues head on.
But these are criminal.
Sheriff Sergeant Mark Gandhi says one of the arrests during the operation was 35-year-old Anthony Solis, who detectives say has a long history of drug-related convictions and theft-related offenses.
And now that Prop 36 is passed, obviously, there will be some actual, hopefully, real results for some of these.
Sacramento County District Attorney Tian Ho said earlier this month his office will use Proposition 36.
Make no mistake about it, we will hold people accountable.
It's definitely kind of a pendulum swing.
Defense attorneys like Alan Sawyer understands the frustration surrounding repeat offenders, but emphasizes the importance of second chances.
We don't want a bunch of people in society that are convicted felons, not get jobs, not.
I'm interested to see if it's youth.
Fuck that. What do you mean you don't want a bunch of people that can't get jobs? Because if you have a history of stealing from other people, I do not want you working for me. I don't. I need to see your history. If that's who you are as a person, no, I don't know. That's not an excuse. But that's a really big problem, is that people thought they can get away with that forever. And now look, they're cracking down on it, and good. The problem with that is huge. I remember being in California and watching people walk in and just walk out with stuff. And I'm like, why am I in line paying? And it's because I had parents. Not perfect people, but parents and grandparents. And, you know, you were taught right from wrong. And I understand that in absence of order, there would be chaos. And there's no stability in chaos. And, you know, my family came here for the right to work. If we wanted chaos, we could have stayed where we were. So There was no point of coming here when we didn't want to assimilate and be a part of the American structure and the fold, and to appreciate this country and to appreciate the opportunity to work. People don't understand that in other countries, you don't have the option to work. We don't come here to this country for the freedom to get free shit so we can lay around. We come here because we want to work. People over here, from here, they're trying to get away from work. So maybe that does explain. Now, yeah, think about it. Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy have the same access to the internet we got. They see there's an issue with people who come to this, who are from this country, and they're lazy and don't want to work. Those people are seeing the same videos that we're seeing, and they're like, hey, we'd rather bring some people over here that are more motivated. I mean, I like I said again, capitalism versus patriotism. It's going to be a conflict on this issue. Let's see here. We're at 146 right now. I'm gonna clip it here, and then I'm going to start another one. I'm gonna grab something to eat. We're gonna start another one and just go over this stuff that's on the news, and just go over different topics, and we'll go from there. So I'll be back on shortly. Thank you for tuning in, and I hope you're still around when I get back.